It started with the sound of diesel, a low, grinding roar echoing across my property line before sunrise. By the time I threw on my boots and stepped out onto the porch, the rumble was already halfway across the creek, a backhoe, bright yellow, and behind the wheel a woman in a pink, windbreaker, and pearls. Karen. She was the self-appointed president of the Willow Bend, HOA, subdivision built half a mile past my property line. My land wasn't part of her jurisdiction, never had been, but that morning, she was out there anyway, ordering a crew of landscapers to tear out my private bridge. Like it was some neighborhood pet project gone wrong. I shouted over the engine noise. "That's my bridge, on my land." Karen barely looked up. "It's an unapproved structure, against HOA visual guidelines." The excavator's bucket bit into the wood and steel like it was paper. The creek water below splashed up with every crunch. By the time I reached the edge of the pasture, she'd already snapped photos, probably for her community improvement. Report 10 told her crew to haul the debris off for compliance. The bridge wasn't just some decoration. It connected my barn access road to the main gravel drive. Without it, the only route for feed deliveries now ran through 2 miles of soft soil and slope. When I asked her what gave her authority, she smiled. "You're adjacent to the HOA. Visual continuity still applies." I laughed once, low and dry. "You just made a federal trespass." That wiped the smile off her face. By noon, I'd called the sheriff's department. The deputy showed up, young guy, polite but hesitant. He said the situation was gray. The HOA survey maps showed a dotted easement line. Mine didn't. I offered to show him my plat, and deed recorded 20 years before the HOA even existed. He took photos, shrugged, and said it'd probably need to go civil. Civil was fine with me. Civil meant paper trails. That night, I walked the creek with a flashlight and camera. The smell of diesel lingered in the air. Mud prints lead straight from the demolished bridge to a tire track that veered back toward the subdivision gate. I snapped every detail: the crushed rebar, the burn marks on the soil, the exposed footings still bolted into concrete. Then I noticed something glinting in the mud, a chipped HOA property tag. Still sticky on one side, perfect evidence. I bagged it and labeled it Exhibit A. By morning, the harassment began. Karen sent me a printed notice of violation in my mailbox, no postage, no signature declaring my remaining bridge materials a community safety hazard. She even cited a section of the HOA bylaws. I looked it up. Section 4.3 structures, visible from street or shared waterways. My creek wasn't shared. The HOA boundary stopped at their decorative fence. I took a slow breath and started scanning every map I had, county survey archives, Google Earth overlays, and my own 2016 topographical drone footage. The bridge sat 82 feet beyond their limit, clear as day. She'd crossed a line literally and legally. 2 days later, a man in a white truck pulled up while I was restacking lumber. He handed me a compliance demand letter signed by the HOA's council. The claim: encroachment onto community visual corridor. I almost laughed again. Instead, I photographed the letter next to my mailbox to document the delivery. Timestamped, GPS-tagged. If they wanted to play the bylaw game, I'd play harder. That evening, I installed trail cams, 4 of them along the creek bank and facing the gate where the crew had entered. Each one motion-triggered, time-sensed, and cloud-backed. I also slipped an AirTag into one of the construction cones Karen's team had left behind. If they came back, I'd know exactly where that equipment went. And when Karen thought she'd won by ripping up a bridge, she didn't realize she'd just built me a case. 3 nights after the demolition, my phone buzzed with a motion alert at 2:14 a.m. The trail cam by the creek had caught something: headlights, faint and creeping. A white SUV, same make as Karen's Lexus. The license plate reflection was half visible, but I didn't need full digits to know. The footage showed her walking the bank with a flashlight, checking what was left of the foundation posts. She paused, stared at the empty gap where the bridge had been, and made a call. The mic barely caught her voice. "Yes, we'll get the replacement bid ready for the next board meeting." That single line told me everything. She wasn't just trying to erase an eyesore. She was planning to use my bridge site for an HOA footpath expansion. So I called my lawyer, Daniel Mercer. Real estate specialist, razor sharp, and patient enough for cases exactly like this. I sent him the photos, videos, property deed, and HOA letters. He didn't even hesitate. "Ryan, you're 100% outside their jurisdiction. They trespassed and destroyed private infrastructure. That's criminal mischief, not civil." Music to my ears. He told me to gather every document, timestamp, and image I had. "We'll need an itemized repair estimate," he added, "and chain of custody proof for any physical evidence. Keep everything sealed." So I did, the next week. I filed a damage report with the county sheriff file, over 60 megabytes of proof. Then, with Daniel's help, I submitted a formal trespass complaint to the county zoning board. The moment they saw my plat map, one of the inspectors raised an eyebrow. "You're not even in Willow Bend's overlay district. They have zero standing." That single sentence was better than coffee. Meanwhile, the AirTag I'd hidden in the orange cone pinged. The signal was coming from a maintenance shed inside Willow Bend. The HOA was keeping the same equipment they'd used to tear down my bridge. That's when I got creative. With Daniel's approval, I met with Deputy Shaw, the same officer who'd brushed me off before. This time, I had paperwork survey boundaries, timestamps, and GPS proof of unauthorized entry. He whistled low, almost embarrassed. "I'll pay Karen a visit," he said. 2 days later, Karen appeared on my camera feed, again, but not at the creek this time. She was pacing along the fence line with a clipboard, visibly furious. The next morning, she slipped another note into my mailbox. "Cease all harassment of HOA personnel. You are bordering community land and subject to visual compliance review." That one made me laugh out loud. I printed the letter and added it to my evidence binder, right under the title, Imaginary Jurisdictions. But here's the thing about HOA Karens. They double down when cornered. The following weekend, a landscaping crew, same company, new uniforms, showed up claiming they were there to reseed the community path. Only problem: their truck tires crossed 30 feet into my pasture. I walked up calmly, recording on my phone. "You guys know this isn't HOA land, right?" The foreman froze. "Ma'am said we had approval." "Which ma'am?" He pointed toward the road. Karen's Lexus idled there, windows up, watching. I kept my voice even. "Leave the property now, before the deputy gets here." They left. Karen sped off. The dust hung in the air like proof. That night, I sat on my porch with Daniel on speakerphone. "We're going to make this official," he said. "I'll file for a restraining order and property injunction Monday morning, but first we'll need a witness." He had someone in mind. Lisa Grant, a county surveyor with a reputation for meticulous accuracy. She agreed to come out and verify the markers. When she arrived, she found the old steel survey pin still embedded in the ground near the creek. Her words were as precise as her laser level. "The bridge sat entirely within your parcel. They crossed 47 feet of private land. That's not a mistake. It's a violation." With her statement signed, we were ready. That's when I decided to go one step further. Using a spare trail cam, I mounted a camera facing the HOA meeting hall entrance. Nothing illegal, just a public-facing view from the county right-of-way. Then I synced its timestamp with my AirTag tracker. If Karen planned to bring up that community path expansion, I wanted her words on record. And sure enough, at the next HOA meeting, the AirTag pinged the same location for 3 straight hours. Karen's mistake wasn't tearing down my bridge. It was trying to rebuild it with HOA funds. The trap was set. The morning of the meeting, I awoke before sunrise. The creek was still, the kind of calm that comes before a storm. My new bridge beams were stacked on sawhorses, waiting for permits I technically didn't even need. But that wasn't today's battle. Today was about exposure. By 6 p.m., Willow Bend's HOA clubhouse parking lot was packed. SUVs lined the curb, homeowners clutching binders and folding chairs. I parked across the street, camera ready, lawyer by my side. Inside, I could already hear Karen's voice through the open door, cheerful, rehearsed, confident, and with unanimous approval. "The board will allocate $18,600 to restore the damaged crossing near the East Creek boundary. This improvement will enhance our shared visual harmony." She said it like she was announcing a park upgrade. The crowd murmured in approval till Daniel and I stepped through the doorway. Karen froze mid-sentence. Daniel spoke first, calm and measured. Before this board votes on using community funds, we should clarify ownership. That crossing sits on private land, my client's land. A few heads turned. Some frowned. Others whispered. Karen's face went pale. She tried to regain composure. That's a misinterpretation of our easement map. I handed her a laminated printout of the county survey. Stamped and signed by Lisa Grant. This is the legal boundary. The HOA line ends here, I said, tapping the red highlight. You crossed it, ordered a demolition, and used HOA equipment. That's trespass, destruction of private property, and misappropriation of funds. The room went dead silent. Karen's lips tightened. Sir, I don't appreciate being ambushed. Then maybe you shouldn't have shown up on my cameras at 2:14 a.m., I interrupted, pulling up the night footage on a tablet. The projector light caught her face perfectly, same pearls, same windbreak, same flashlight. Gasps rolled through the crowd. Daniel followed with the paperwork damage estimates. Photos, the AirTag logs proving HOA equipment had been stored in their shed. Then he slid a copy of the sheriff's report across the table. The county has already classified this as criminal mischief, he said. You're free to explain it to the deputy waiting outside. Karen's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. Oh, we're very serious, Daniel replied. And for the record, my client's filing a civil suit for full restoration costs, plus damages. The HOA treasurer, balding man who'd looked half asleep all meeting, spoke up. Madam President. Did you authorize that project? Karen stammered. It was for the community's benefit. Another member snapped. You used our dues for that. The room fractured. Voices rose. Cameras came out. Someone yelled, she's been doing this for years. Within minutes, the board voted for an emergency suspension. Karen stormed out, heels slamming the floor like gunshots. The deputy met her at the door. A month later, I rebuilt my bridge. Legally, solidly better than before. I even added a steel plaque on the side rail. Private property, verified boundary. 2025. Karen's name disappeared from the HOA website. Rumor was, she'd been fined for misuse of community funds and barred from holding any board position in the county for 5 years. As for me, I didn't celebrate loud. I just stood by the creek one evening, listening to the water slide under the new planks, thinking about how quickly people confuse control with care. Boundaries exist for a reason. They protect not just property, but peace. So, if you ever find yourself dealing with an overreaching HOA or a neighbor who thinks authority trumps ownership, document everything. Stay calm and let proof do the talking. Because, in the end, paper and patience always win.